Culture. Culture is made up of a complex set of both surface material, objects, and deeper beliefs and values. Each person can be said to be a part of many different overlapping cultures. This includes not only countries of origin, but ages, race, and gender, families, and various other group memberships. Even the organization and companies you work with impact your beliefs and behaviors. So, how can you possibly learn all there is to know about other cultures in order to be effective in working with them and understanding them? You can't, but you can learn various frameworks to help you learn about culture and people. This can act as a guide to helping you understand others better and also to understand yourself. The way you think, behave, and perceive the world is due to your culture. A well-known Dutch anthropologist, Gert Hosved, has called culture the software of the mind. And this is an apt description, like a computer. Everyone has similar hardware, bodies, but a different set of values, ideas, beliefs, and assumptions, software, that is developed from shared understandings. Culture is learned. No one is born with a culture. Hosfeld articulated a dimension of culture framework in the 1980s and has updated and added to it over the years. Today, Hosfed's framework is also known as the sixth dimension of national culture, or the 6D model. Initially based on surveys data collected from IBM employees who are all over the world, Bosvet argued that his framework is particularly useful for highlighting similarities and differences between national cultures. This framework gives you a useful way to think about how culture dimensions affect individuals within a culture. These are generalized broad theories that do not apply the same way to every individual with a particular culture. As you read, consider how your own orientation aligns with the score given to the culture you identify with. Power distance. I don't know. I think that's like the space between like maybe thinking like government officials, like the spacing of their office, individualism and collectivism. Individualism, like being an individual, getting to be the characteristics and traits that you have as a single person that may be alike or different from other people. Collectivism, I think those are like the thoughts that bring you together, like within a group. Masculinity, masculinity is like traits that a society would particularly relate to a male. Femininity, femininity, traits that are characteristics of a woman. Uncertainty, advidence, advodance, maybe supporting ideas that show that the conclusion might be wrong. Long term versus short term orientation. Um, Long term is like a long term goal, but how are you and what do you focus on for the long term? Short term orientation, what do you focus on within like a couple of weeks compared to a couple of months or even years? Indulgence versus restraint. Just doing whatever you want is indulgence, and restraint is um, not doing it and sacrificing. Power distance is a measure of the degree to which less powerful members of society expect and accept as unequal distribution of power. This is a certain degree of inequality in all societies. However, there is a relatively more equality in some societies than in others. Power distance is measured on a scale of 1 to 100, with the 1 being low and 100 being high. Denmark scores very low in power distance, and Mexico scores quite high. The US falls somewhere in between. Countries with lower power distance values tend to be more egalitarian. For instance, there is more equality between parents and children. Parents are more likely to accept if a child argues with them. In the workplace, bosses are more likely to ask employees for input. In countries with high power distance, parents expect children to obey without questioning. People of higher states may expect conspicuous display of respect from subordinates. Subordinates in the workplace, superiors and subordinates are not likely to see each other as equals, and it is assumed that bosses will make decisions without consulting employees. In general, status is more important in high-power distant countries. Individualism and collectivism anchor opposite ends of the continuum that describe how people define themselves and their relationship with others. In high individualistic societies, the interests of individuals receive more emphasis than those of the group, the family, the company, etc. Individual, individualistic societies put more value on striving and personal accomplishment, while more collectivistic societies put more emphasis on the importance of relationships and loyalty. People are defined more by what they do in individualistic societies and collectivistic societies. They are defined more by the membership in particular groups. Communication is more direct in individualistic societies and more indirect in collectivistic societies. The US ranks very high in individualism. South Korea ranks quite low in individualism, but high in collectivism. Japan falls close to the middle of the two. Masculinity versus femininity. Femininity measures the degree to which a society values assertiveness, competition, and material success. Countries that score low in masculinity tend to embrace values such as modesty, quality of life, interpersonal relationships, and greater concerns for the disadvantage of society. Societies high in masculinity are also more likely to have strong opinions about what constituent men's work versus women's work in work, while society high in femininity permit much more overlapping in the social role of men and women. Uncertainty evidence measures the extent to which people value predictability and view uncertainty as threatening. People in society that measure high in uncertainty evidence prefer to know exactly what to expect in any given situation. They want firm rules and strict codes of behavior. They dislike ambiguity, ambiguity, and risk-taking. People from countries that score low on uncertainty evidence generally have a higher tolerance for risk-taking in business. They are happy to have few rules and prefer less structure over more tightly structured contexts. long-term versus short-term orientation is associated with thrift, saving, and persistence towards goals, and the willingness to subordinate oneself for a purpose. Culture with a long-term orientation make decisions that take into account the long-term effects. For example, many Native Americans have a decision-making principle that looks ahead 7 generations to see what the important impact of things decide now might be a far future. Short-term orientation is associated with less saving, a preference for quick results, and unrestrained spending in response to social pressure, often referred to in English as keeping up with the Joneses. In business, countries high in long-term orientation tend to plan far ahead rather than for short-term gains. Indulgence versus restraint is associated with feeling of happiness, fun, and freedom of choice. Cultures that demonstrate an orientation of restraint may be viewed as subjectively unhappy and feel that life is hard without choices of freedom. Indulgent societies feel a greater sense of control over individual outcomes, whereas restraint culture may have a feeling of helplessness and less individual control. Helpful and friendly customer service, as you see encouraged in the US, is characteristics of an indulgent culture. More restrained countries, like Russia, may see friendly service as unnatural and inappropriate. This of an indulgent culture, more restrained countries like Russia may see friendly service as unnatural and inappropriate. This culture dimension was introduced in 2010 and is still in its infancy in understanding its role in cross-cultural communication.